is a quick introduction to Dr.
Okay.
Tourist, and then today we're going to do Chester. Basically, the idea came when me and Carlos and Chris were talking about how can we introduce different cultures to people, and based on that, we tried to start with cities that we know, and then we're going to invite friends to chat again, so we can promote their cities and have more fun, basically. So this is Dr. Tourist. We're going to do today Chester. You can follow us on Instagram. It's a new account, I can assure you. And then you can also subscribe in YouTube. So the first thing comes to my mind as a tourist. Okay, I've been to Chester, but the first thing comes to my mind is basically UK in general. Okay, I wouldn't actually visit Chester. I would think of big cities like London, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Manchester. These big cities that attract a lot of foreigners, a lot of tourists. But at the same time, when I visited London, it was basically difficult to feel the sense of the British people. Like, you don't actually sit or talk or chat with anyone who's actually from London. Basically, most of the people in London, they're actually outside London. They came to London and they want to either doing business or they want to have fun, or so big cities, they don't actually present, and this is my belief, they don't actually present the culture of the English people, because here we're talking about Chester. So that's why we want to talk about Chester. There are also big cities like Mexico, but there are Mexican, I think, living in Mexico City. But London is too big. It's you cannot actually compare between
Mexico City is not as cosmopolite as London. So I can have Querétaro.
Okay, that's good.
Is where I living.
So when I do search about small cities, I might come across to Chester, and the first thing comes to my mind is basically Chester Zoo. I wouldn't think of anything than to visit Chester Zoo and see the area, because this is the only thing that basically is known about Chester, that they do have a zoo and it's very big. And one of the difficult things that I face, and maybe other tourists they do face, is basically the language. The language is very difficult to understand. Not in Chester specifically, but in general. Like, you go to Edinburgh, and I've been to Edinburgh in 2010, and I went there to study English. When I met a guy in a coffee shop, and I told him, yeah, I came to Edinburgh to study English. He told me, well, you came to the wrong place. But he said it sounds more like why you came to Edinburgh to study English. It's like, okay, but I came to UK and everyone in UK speak English. But that's one of the main problems that I face. And
I will.
What
I will say about the UK,
Christopher, about the language as a difficult thing.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of regional accents. So we do have. You can go like 5 miles up the road, and an accent can change a lot. So everybody's speaking English, yes, but we all sound very different. I think Chester's relatively easy. The feedback from a lot of like travelers is that people from Chester are easier to understand, but then you go to Liverpool and that's much harder. Edinburgh, even I struggle with some Scottish. Like if they are really, really, really Scottish, even I struggle. And I speak this language. I've always spoke this language. So yeah, no, I do completely understand
Don't
what
even
you're saying
mention
there.
the Highlanders. The Highlanders, I think these people are different level of like they don't actually speak. I feel that they don't speak English. The Highlanders.
Yeah, and it's not because it's not just the language, but you'll also have like a lot of turns of phrase and a lot of expressions that they'll only use in that area.
Yeah.
So you kind of, yeah, you're not going to learn that in a textbook. You're not going to learn that, you know, if you're learning like English 101 from an audiobook or something, they're just going to teach you the Queen's English, like the kind of thing they'd read on the news. Oh, we're all going to talk in correct sentences. And it's very, but then you go meet someone in Scotland and it's blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
This is me when I visited UK. Like I thought that the English they taught us is like, yeah, this is the perfect English. You go to England now and you practice. Say, okay, but it's totally different. Like
Yeah. But that's the real practice. That's the real practice because you've been to the UK and you've practiced in lots of different cities. That's like the real lesson that you've done that.
and for me, after traveling to UK several times, I found three main difficult languages, at least for me. Liverpool, the Scouse, and then you have in Newcastle a language called Nordic or Doric. Newcastle.
They just call it like Geordie. We're Geordies.
Geordie. And then basically the Edinburgh, the Highlanders. These are the three main. And I think there is one also in London. There is one in London, Western London.
Cockney.
Cockney. Here you go. So Cockney. So these are the four main difficult languages that I faced. But other than that,
Cockneys will have. We call it Cockney rhyming slang. So they will say things like apples and pears, and apples and pears means stairs. Like, how is a visitor going to know that?
It's going to be difficult to
trouble and strife. Yeah. Trouble and strife is wife. Wife.
Trouble.
Okay, I don't know that. Okay, so we head back to Chester. So in Chester, me as a tourist, I would only know Chester Zoo and Chester Outlet. The only two places that I visited the first time I went to Chester, because Outlet basically is big compared to outlets in the northern part of England, and everything in it, and it's cheap. So these are the main two attractions that tourists might go to when they visit Chester. But I need you to tell me more about Chester. So I collected some pictures, and I hope these pictures that fit your background. Okay, I know I stole some information from you, but no problem. So we
that's fine. I find it very interesting that the two main things that jumped out to you were Chester Zoo and Cheshire Oaks, the outlet designer village. Like, that's really interesting that they're the things that jumped out to you, because they are big things, but I wouldn't have guessed that. What I will say about Chester Zoo as well is, yes, it's big, but it's very like globally well known because they've got, I think it's like the top zoo or one of the top zoos for conservation. So they're really good for like looking after the animals, breeding programs, swapping animals around between zoos and getting them to breed, and just creating natural environments for the animals to live in.
And it's the biggest in UK. That's one of the that's one of the few things. And also the picture on the right, it's not on the top right.
That's not Chester Zoo, no.
No, this one is.
That looks.
This one is in also near Chester. It's a safari near Chester, but
Is it
Knowsley?
Knowsley Safari Park? Knowsley, yeah.
Knowsley, it's near Chester, right? It's not far away from Chester.
Yeah, I think it's a bit closer to Liverpool, yeah. It's yeah. If you visited Chester, that is very close. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move. Carlos, do you have any question?
No, I don't have any question. I just know that Chester has a lot of buildings from 13th century, isn't it? All the Tudor houses made of the dark wood. Well,
Yeah,
this
so
was on the main street, the high street. I don't know what is the name specifically.
yeah, all the streets have got weird names as well. But you can just see one of those buildings that Carlos is referring to on the left of this image. So there's the black and white Victorian building. So yeah, they're all wooden. I was saying last time they used
Seems like we're having a problem.
to be white and brown, and then more recently, kind of interesting as well. There's a lot of history in Chester, so it's like a Roman town. So there's like a Roman stone walls that go all the way around the city. So you can walk in one continuous loop around the old Roman walls, and there's the old Roman Amphitheatre, and there's all these different like Roman sites, but then within the Roman,
Tell me about
and the clock as well. So the clock that we can see now is part of the walls. So that is built into the walls. It's a newer structure. So that was built in 1897. It's got the date on it, and that was to like celebrate the reign of Queen Victoria, one of the queens before Queen Elizabeth. So yeah, it's just I think it's just a really cool looking clock. I think it's the most photographed and the most famous clock in the UK after Big Ben in London. So you got Big Ben, which is really famous, and then this one would be the next clock. But as you say, most people wouldn't think to visit Chester. They go to London, they go to Manchester. Something that I thought was cool as well, which I didn't mention last time, is we're talking about Chester, but there's a lot of towns and cities in the UK with the word Chester in it. So you've got Manchester, you've got Colchester, you've got like there's loads of Chesters, but this is like Chester, the main one.
Okay.
Yeah, the original. So this is the amphitheatre, yes. So that's the amphitheatre where I was last time in the top left. On the right is the Roman Gardens. So that's very close to the amphitheatre. So you can see like the bottom of the pillars. If anyone's ever been to like Pompeii in Italy, and you can go and see that's not so Roman actually, is it? But you get the idea. Like it's similar to the architecture you'd see in Rome and that kind of place, because that was obviously the center of the empire, and then they expanded out and got to the UK. And then in the bottom left, you can see the Roman walls as well, with like the towers. So you'd have the Roman walls, but then they've been used for years later. Although the Romans built this, fort, it's been used as a, like a strategic military town and things for years later. So yeah.
And maybe the reason why it's all demolished because of the war in England. Like you guys have like a lot of wars during the years. So but it's not the same thing in Rome.
Yeah, a lot of
the Rome, they still have the Colosseum and other big theaters.
For example, here in Chester,
we have had a lot of.
I'm sorry. Chester was in war with whom? With whom was it war?
Say that again.
Or Chester were struggling with which I don't know, like country or town.
I think it was a lot of civil wars. Yeah, so I don't think it was more like international wars. Like it was more civil wars going back between like the Roundheads and
Well,
all that kind of thing. When you talk about the War of the Roses and the 100-Year War,
yeah.
all internal. It's all like, yeah, old politics and things. And the thing as well is what's a bit different about the UK. When you travel around Europe, like a lot of mainland Europe was destroyed during World War II. So because the main fighting was done, you know, on the streets of France, on the streets of, you know, like Poland and things like that, Czech Republic. But the UK never really was invaded during World War II. So we got bombed a lot. The German bombers would come over and drop bombs on us. But they didn't really bomb Chester because Chester was small. So, you know, they took all their bombers and bombed Manchester and bombed Liverpool. So there's whole areas of Liverpool which were just destroyed and had to be rebuilt. Whereas Chester, relatively untouched.
Okay.
But I don't think it was the wars which, yeah.
Okay, because at the north is the Adrian Wall, isn't it? And I found it where internal wars, as for example the York and Lancaster houses, but Chester with which side was, or with which I don't know, like.
Good question.
Yes. With whom was
not,
in war or at war, or which side was taking part of? I don't know.
Yeah. History isn't my specialty. I can look into it. I know with like Adrian Wall, yeah, in the north, that was more like England versus Scotland, I think. I believe that's right. Historians correct me in the comments. I think with Chester, it was more like, I mean, when the Romans were there, they were just occupying. It was an empire. So, you know, like they just had all the English people sort of dominated, all the Welsh. There'd be a lot of fighting against the Welsh and things who were sort of rebelling. Wales. And then, yeah, I think, like I say, history is not my strong point, but just like you can look into, I'm sure Oliver Cromwell stood on this wall. So he was like, you know, one of the leaders back then. And there would just be battles. But I couldn't honestly tell you the sides without going into territory that I'm not too familiar with yet.
Good.
Yeah.
That's another thing about, we don't learn a lot of history in school, or I find when I've traveled and I meet people from other countries, you know a lot about your own history, and we don't know that much.
Okay.
Like I didn't like history at school. I dropped it as soon as I could, and I focused on geography. But I really appreciate history now that I'm older, and now I read about it, and now I learn about it. But in school, I did not like history.
This is one of the strange things, because I personally, when I travel, I like to visit museums. And so before going to museum, I read a couple of pages or websites about the city. And when I ask people, mostly they don't actually know about the history. So when we talked about Alexander, when I met him in Sweden, I chat with him about a king in like a famous king in whatever Viking era, but he was like, "Yeah, what's wrong with him?" He's like, "Yeah." So basically, the whole idea of, as a tourist, see, oh, people, they should know because they are history. And it should, like, it might be the same thing with me. If you ask me a couple of questions about Kuwait history, I wouldn't answer. Maybe, but I found it like this is very common. Locals, they don't actually focus about their history unless the history basically touches their family or something related to their family.
Yeah.
Say your father or your great grandfather is Alexander the Great. Yeah, you should know about him. I'm just guessing.
I think some people are really interested in history. My brother liked history in school, whereas other people just aren't interested. And I think it's something that comes with age. I think you get older and you become more interested in your own family, like genealogy and your own history. And yeah, but I think younger people don't care. Well, that's my experience anyway. That's my personal experience.
I don't think even the governments, they do care about history. Like in Kuwait, they focus more about maybe special parts of Kuwaiti history. But I don't know. We can move on. What is this, Chris? What do you think? Tell me.
Yeah, I wish they would and learn from their mistakes. That would help.
Yeah.
This is Chester Cathedral. This is Chester Cathedral. So big cathedral. It's an Anglican one. I go there. I usually go there on Christmas Eve. So this is not where I would go to church every Sunday. But you can if you want. Some people do. But yeah, I usually go there on Christmas Eve for midnight mass. So like 12 p.m. on the 24th of December, going into the 25th. I'll go there and see the service.
Do you have big gatherings on Christmas Eve?
Yes, yeah. It's all about families getting together at Christmas, exchanging gifts and eating a lot of food.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, what do you normally do? Because I've never experienced that atmosphere, let's say. Like, I've never been to...
It's funny because, again, I always just assumed that everyone did what my family did at Christmas. And my very first Christmas away, I spent one Christmas in Birmingham when I was about 25. Mm-hmm. And then I spent a Christmas in the South Pacific. And all the expats were there. So we had Australians, Americans, people from New Zealand, British people. We were all sitting around. And there's probably about 20 of us all eating in the South Pacific. And we went around the table and said, like, what does everyone do on Christmas Day? And I went first. And I was like, oh, just the usual thing. And I explained what I did. And then we went around the table and I realized, whoa, everyone does something different.
Yeah.
So for my family, it would be, we wake up, we exchange presents, exchange gifts. This is when I was younger and now. So like my parents would get me gifts. I get my parents gifts. We exchange them. And then maybe we'd go and see a neighbor, like at the end of the morning, we'll go visit a next door neighbor, literally the house next door. Then we come home, eat a big meal, watch the Queen on the TV. Then we probably have a little sleep because we're all full and we've had too much. And then in the evening, we go to the other neighbor next door and see them. So we spend the whole day, just small family, go see the neighbors. That's it. That's Christmas Day for us. But other people might do something completely different. Some people travel around loads. Some people like spend all of Christmas Day driving from their mums to their brothers to the, like just on the road. And then when I was in Vanuatu discussing it, there was Australians saying, yeah, we have a barbecue on the beach. I was just like, that's completely different to what we do. So it's hard to give you an answer to that because everyone does so many different things.
It's good to know something about it. We talked about Chester, but we didn't mention the university. How is basically education in Chester? Tell me briefly and very quickly.
So Chester has a university. It got university status around 2005. It was a college, I believe, who has like campuses in different places, and almost like the university brand was on the Chester thing. And then Chester University became independent in about 2005. They teach a range of subjects, and I think the main ones, like the ones it's best known for, are like teaching, like primary school teaching, and nursing. Mm-hmm. It's not like an Oxford or Cambridge, like, because we have like a league table of, there's loads of universities in the UK. It's not like in the top 10 or anything, but but yeah, I think it does have a good reputation for, yeah, teaching and nursing. I didn't go there because I wanted to go away and study somewhere else. So I went to Aberystwyth in Wales and then did my master's with you two in Liverpool. But yeah, do you want to know anything else about the Chester Uni?
I'm good. I'm good. You have any question, Carlos?
No, I don't have any question.
I did a search, okay,
Nice.
and I found this restaurant. Do you recognize it?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. 1539 is the restaurant that's there. The restaurant's called 1539 on Chester Racecourse. So yeah, we have Chester Races was on yesterday. I was in Manchester, so I missed it. I got the train to Manchester, but Chester Races was on yesterday, where lots of people all come to Chester, gamble and watch horses run around, and they all get drunk.
What is special about this restaurant? Because as soon as you Google, the first thing comes is this restaurant, especially in TripAdvisor.
Okay.
What is special about it?
I've not eaten there. My mum and dad have eaten there, so I can ask them and find out. I've not had a meal in 1539, but my mum and dad have. I think it's like a higher end restaurant. I think it's good food, good atmosphere.
Is it
probably a bit more pricey for like a special occasion, that kind of thing? But yeah, I can find out for you, but I've not personally eaten there yet.
Is it British cuisine?
I think so. And you know what? I'll Google it now and I'll look at the menu and I'll tell you if it's British cuisine. I'm sure it will be. How do I get this? There we go. Let's Google it. Google 1539 restaurant. Yeah, so menu.
Chester is a traditional dish that is like pulled pork, isn't it? Or is like kind of pulled pork is I forgot the name of that. But it's at the high street, and it has a traditional Dijon mustard and something like that. We went there when I was at Chester, and well, the last week I was in UK. I went to Chester for a couple of hours. I went to a pub called The Tap. The Tap is at the outskirts of Chester. I think it's out of the wall, or a little
proper English pub. The Tap.
The Tap is amazing. I still have some things from The Tap at my home. Yeah.
I think it's cool that you've both been to Chester as well, because you're obviously living in Liverpool for a while, and I've seen the photos of you being in Chester near the river and things. It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm just taking a quick look at this menu, and it is quite traditional English food, most of it. So you've got like cod loin, so fish, like a belly of pork. You were just saying about pork then, so twice cooked belly of pork. Yeah, all the desserts are all very English. Strawberries and cream. You usually think of like tennis for that. You know, someone going to watch the tennis in Wimbledon, they'll eat a lot of strawberries. Eton mess. That's would you think that? Think of that as English?
It's called the brewery tap.
It says the brewery tap. Yeah, it's up some steps, right? Did you have to go up some steps to get in there? Eton mess. It's described as an Italian meringue, but I'm sure it's British.
Well, now
marmalade. Yes,
now
this is
more interested than before when you talk about food, isn't you, Carlos?
Yeah. Because I forget. I think because you forget about your own culture until you realize that not everybody else does that. So this marmalade is my uncle's favorite place when he comes to Chester. So that's more of like a coffee shop slash cafe. When I was talking about a cafe last time,
Mhm.
you'd go there and get like a light bite, not like a full meal, more of like some sandwiches or soup or you know, a cup of coffee. Yeah.
Nice, nice. We took. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you so much, and thank
Thank you,
you.
Christopher.
No worries.
It was. I hope it was good introduction, and next time we're gonna do hopefully Kuwait, and then after that we're gonna arrange some meeting with guys from the Scandinavian countries, and we will see how things goes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No worries.
I'm gonna stop sharing.